Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all my Muslim students. Hi everyone. Today, let's continue with our next topic. We have measurement for the building finishes. So one of the building finishes that we would like to focus will be floor finishes. Okay, so basically when we talk about finishes, this is one of the architectural work. Okay, measurement for architectural work, where normally I will ask my students to understand this concept. We have 1, 2, 3. So you imagine that you are standing actually here, and then you look at on in front. So the in front part will be your wall finishes. So this is wall. The bottom one will be the floor finishes, and then on the top will be your ceiling finishes. So C, W, F. Okay, this is the category of the building finishes. Okay, before we go for the detail, we look at the learning outcome. As usual, you need to take note that basically I expect that the student must be able to identify the item to be measured. You must be able to interpret the drawing and prepare the taking off list. Number 2, after you prepare the taking off list, you must be able to prepare the quantities, taking off the quantities, how to get the length, how to get the width, and able to identify relevant clauses, because when you prepare taking off list, you need to identify the clauses, right? And of course, you must be able to prepare the BQ. Okay, so the concepts are similar. Understand the drawing, prepare taking off list, identify the clauses, you understand the measurement principle, then you can start measure. Okay, basically when we have to take a look at the briefing of the floor finishes, I give you the example of the layout plan. So if you look at this layout plan, this is only one example of the layout plan. Okay, example for 5,000 square feet luxury house villa. You can see that the architect will identify based on the color. Okay, and then you can see on the right hand side, even if you refer to the pamphlet, if you want to buy the house, you can refer to the architectural information and structure on the right hand side of the pamphlet. And basically, the architect will identify the detailed specification, either they put the material used or whether they put the size together. This is one of the example. Let's say you see this one in pink color. This is dining area, for example. If I zoom in, dining area, pink color. This one may be homogeneous style. Family room, this one may be parquet. Okay, and hall area may be ceramic tiles. So the architect highlight different color just to make sure that the people understand, okay, this is this area having different specification. Even if you have different color, also consider as different specification. Okay, when we talk about specification, we always refer to the materials. This is something that you have to understand, and you also have to write down in the description letter. Material, the size, so this one are referring to the dimension, and this is the dimension for that particular tiles, parquet, and so on. For example, if tiles, you can see maybe 100 times 100 times maybe 8 mm thick. Okay, so this is the length, width, and the thickness of the tiles. And then you may need to see what is a bedding details. Bedding details means where you want to put the tiles, whether on the 20 mm thick cement screed or maybe 25 and so on. Okay, so these are basically basic material and specification that need to be identified by the QS in order to start the measurement. Okay, so this is only the overview. We go back to the general principle. This is something that we have learned in general under staircase finishes, but we are focusing on the staircase. We are focusing on the floor finishes. So when we start any finishes, we have to look at the category. Finishes shall be given separately, either in internal or external. So what you need to take note is, before you start any measurement, you have to identify the element. We have one external floor finishes, okay, and another one we have internal floor finishes. Okay, for internal floor finishes, we have one set of taking off list. So this is considered as one set. Another one, consider another set. Okay, when you prepare taking off list, you cannot combine according to material. You have to first combine according to the location as stated under S.1.1. Outside, consider one category. Internal, consider as one category, even though they are having similar specification. I give you one example. Let's say this is the external part of the building using homogeneous style. This is the brick wall, and then maybe let me color it. Maybe this one is external. Okay, this is internal, but both of these are having similar specification. Okay, maybe this one is the, I highlight this one, maybe is your brick wall. They are having similar specification. Can you combine into one continuous item? The answer is no, because one is located outside, another one is located inside. So based on this principle, you cannot measure under the same item even though the material are similar. So this is the first rule. After you identify this one as the first rule, okay, based on the location, internal or external, then only you go to the second principle. It shall be grouped together according to kind of material under an appropriate heading. What is the meaning of appropriate heading? That means when you have ceramic tiles, you have to finish all ceramic tile into one category. When you have another category of carpet, then you have to group together under the carpet. But still, this is under the second category. Okay. Once you have the curve work, it shall be given separately, stating the radius. A lot of students measure the curve work separately, but they forget to write down the radius. And some students, they forget also to write down the curve separately because they are having similar specification. For example, if I refer to this category, this one, this is the curve work. Okay, let's say they are having similar specification as this one. Can you combine? Both are maybe internal because this is the brick wall, for example. Can you combine? The answer is no, just because we are referring to this clause. Okay, I remember last semester we have final exam question where the student is required to measure only according to S.1.5. A lot of students did not aware on this clause. They are measuring, they measure the whole building. Okay, so imagine if you are given the task to measure this one in 5 minutes, for example, but because you did not read the clause, you measure the whole building, you are actually taking more time than is required. Okay, work of repairing nature shall be kept separately. That means, let's say, this is the new work. Okay, and I mentioned that this is the existing work. This is the original building. Let's say the blue color, this blue color are the new construction work. So if let's say they are repairing work in nature in red color, you need to measure separately. Okay, because according to this clause, renovation work, repairing considered as one separate category. You cannot combine even though they are having similar kind of material. So kind of material is the second rule. Okay, the grouping must be correct. Okay, let's move to the category. Okay, we have to refer to section S. I divided into the same category, but for this one, we have two additional clause, two additional item. So group number one, we have in situ finishes. So this is the in situ finishes. And then I also give you example of in situ finishes. We have paving, screed, and plastering. But for the purpose of the floor, normally we only have paving. That is also known as cement render. Screeding to receive something. Sometimes you can see the word cement screed only. So cement screed only also sometimes referring to the paving. Okay, so the name may be similar. And then the second grouping, we have the final finishes itself. For example, we have tiles, we have fitted carpeting, flexible sheet finishing. Paving or cement screed only doesn't have any. So I put here, this one doesn't have any actual finishes. When I say actual finishes, means they are 2 layers. Let me rub this one first. There are 2 layers. So this is the first layer. This is the second layer. Let's say this is your cement script, and this one is the final finishes. This is what I mean. Final finishes, maybe tiles, maybe carpet, maybe vinyl, and so on. But vinyl, not all type of vinyl required finishes. Sometimes they only required adhesive, such as glue. But nowadays, for the thicker type of the vinyl, sometimes you can see that they are using script, but very limited thickness, say 2 mm and so on, very thin layer of screening. So it depends on the specification. The third one, painting. But painting for the I focusing on the painting on the timber finishes. Okay, or maybe on the cement render. You can see sometimes cement render have been painted with the yellow. Normally I can see in red color or in the green color. Okay, why I say there are two additional items based on this reference. We have one additional item for the drop. So drop is measured under floor finishes. Another one, we also have skirting. You can see skirting is available where the floor may be made from this material, fitted carpeting or tiles. Okay, but the wall is made from plaster and painting. So that is where you have the skirting. The drop is normally applicable in the toilet. From the first layer, let's say you are standing here, this is the layer. You are here. Okay, if you want to go to the toilet, you can see they are a little bit drop. Drop means going down. This is 50 and then this is inside the toilet. Okay, so now maybe you are here inside the toilet. You can see this one. This is known as the drop. So drop is also measured under floor finishes. And then one more thing, so 3 is dividing strip. Dividing strip is applicable when you have different material in one line. Okay, let's say this is the same level, okay, but I put another line here. So this is where you have divider. Why? Maybe because on your left you have cement render. Maybe on the right you have cement tiles. You have ceramic tiles. So you need to have the divider. Okay. So I group this one into the first category. At least you can see all this overview. Right. Look at this photo. This is just to recap the photo to show the installation of the floor finishes that having the 50 mm script. This script is applicable for the paving where we don't have any other finishes. This is normally applicable in the workshop or in the workshop or maybe at the parking area where it doesn't require any other finishes on the top. Even there is no painting on the top, so you need to have a thicker layer of the script 50 mm. This is also considered as part of the thicker finishes for the floor. Okay, this is the recap part. You can see the recaps for method of construction of the tiling works. Okay, the first layer we have the floor slab. So on the top, you cannot put the tiles on the top of the floor slab directly. You need to have the screeder bed. Okay, so this screeder bed normally made from cement and sand. Cement and sand. Cement and sand. Okay, but the ratio need to be stated normally 1:3. 1 is cement, sand is 3. Okay. And then I also highlight here the method of construction for the carpet. This is also to recap what you have learned in city subject. We have carpet that having the carpet underlay separately. So the yellow color here is carpet underlay. You also have the screeder bed. Sometimes this one is also known as floated bed. FLOATAD. FLOATAD. So if you look at the word floated bed, screeder bed means you are required to put the cement and sand component before you lay the carpet. Nowadays, we also have the carpet that not having this screwed bed. They only have carpet plus glue. Okay, so that is one type. Or maybe they have the carpet and carpet padded. They call this one as carpet padded, or that is actually come together. So that is also not having the screed. So you have to read the specification carefully before you start measurement. Okay, this slide actually show the recap on the various type of the floor finishes. We have semi-render, mosaic, ceramic tiles, porcelain, and so on. And I also would like everyone to take note that in terms of the material, you really need to take note, you really need to know, or maybe you have to search some information if you cannot remember. For example, mosaic is having similar detail as the ceramic tiles, but what shows the difference is normally according to the size. Okay, so you can see here unglazed. This one means the surface is not so shiny and then not easily clean. But if you have glazed tile, normally this one is used as the wall finishes because it's easily clean. But for the floor, we may use either porcelain and ceramic. Porcelain is normally more expensive than ceramic, and then the manufacturer detail also different. Okay, but the difference between homo and non-homogeneous are normally according to the material. From the side view, if you see there are two layers, okay, this one are referring to this one is referring to non-homogeneous. You can see the gypsum layer at the back, but let's say from the side view, you only can see one layer. This one are referring to homogeneous. Homo means one. Okay, that means the clay or any material used for that particular ceramic tiles is not mixed with any other material. Okay, but for non-homogeneous, you can see two layers. Okay, so let's go to the actual clause for the floor finishes. S.1.1, this is what I did mention earlier. So what you need to write is internal floor finishes as the element, and the second one, external floor finishes as the element. Let's say the building doesn't have any one of the category, so you only have to write down any one. Okay, for example, the guardhouse. Sometimes you can see the guardhouse doesn't have any external, or maybe the task that I would like you to do only for the gymnasium. So that is under internal floor finishes. Okay, or maybe independent toilet. So there will be no external floor finishes. Okay, look at the category carefully. This is the example. Look at this photo. You can see this design is actually outside the hall. Okay, but because this carpet is still inside the building, we consider this one as internal floor finishes, fitted carpeting. And this one is the example of the internal floor finishes, but it is made from vinyl flooring. Can you see that? Okay, right. The actual clause that we have to refer is under S.6.1b. So they are category under S.6.1. They are level, floor, and actually they are A and B. So A is the cross wall not exceeding 50 degrees from horizontal. Can you correct this one? This is B. B is work over 15 degrees from horizontal. So I repeat this one. This is actually supposed to be A. Okay, S.6.1a, level, fall, and the slope not exceeding 15 degree. The right hand side photo, just to make sure that you understand the word cross fall and the word end fall. This is normally something that you can see outside the building. Okay, outside the building, you can see this is actually the road. If you have the parking area outside, if they are sloping, so this is known as end fall. This is the cross fall. As long as it is not exceeding 15 degree, this is supposed to be S.6.1a. Okay, as long as we have different category of the slope. For example, maybe you have RAM, okay, for OKU, or in English we call this one as disability. In Malay we call this one as OKU, orang kurang upaya in Malaysia. So you can see that next to the pavement, they are ramp. Okay, so this ramp is measured under floor finishes, but maybe you have to check on the category whether it is over 15 degree or maybe not exceeding 15 degree. These are the example. Okay, if you have the cross wall maybe outside the building, this is also the category, because sometimes the cross wall is more than 15 degree from horizontal. This is one of the example outside the building. You have these finishes maybe from granulate or maybe cement render, okay, that require you to measure. So you have to look at the degree. Can you see this one? This is the degree of the detail. Or in the drawing, sometimes engineer already mentioned the category. Okay, let's move to the first category, in situ finishes. So the first category for the in situ finishes, I put here pebble wall finish. You can also refer to S.2 and S.10. Okay, terrazzo and also termacadam. Okay, actually I already highlight this one. This is the example of terrazzo. Can you take note? This is the example of pebble finish, pebble wash. So pebble wash is actually small stone that is actually mixed together with the cement and sand and the glue. Then after that they have to lay. So these two are actually having the same category. But granulate is having smaller stone that is mixed together with the concrete. Okay, so this is pebble wash, this is granulate. On the right hand side, this is terrazzo. Maybe I have to use different color. So this is thermocadam or tile flooring. This is normally something that you can see outside the building, apron area or external floor finishes. Okay, so this is the first group. What you have to write down is according to S.2.1. And again, when you finish writing according to S.2.1, you also need to refer to S.10, especially if they are bags and backing or discrete that require you to receive different material. So we have kind of material, maybe cement, composition, cement and sand, 1:3. So that is normally referring to ratio. This one actually referring to ratio. Method of application, either steel trowel, wood floated, polish, number of the coat, thickness of the material, okay, and any special curing material that is required, you have to take note. Basically, I also would like to take note on the deduction rule. Okay, the void not exceeding 0.5 meters square. This is normally according to the design. For example, this is the toilet. Okay, you can see sometimes there are small area for the floor trap. Okay, sometimes you can see they only write down PL. PL or FT. This is the symbol for the floor trap. Okay, if you see this one, you have to be careful. You have to check what is the size of the floor trap. Then you have to check whether the floor trap having the void exceeding or not exceeding 0.5. Basically, one floor trap is about 100 times 100. So exactly not exceeding 0.5 meters square. So please be careful. Okay, if you have this deduction that is more than 0.5, then only you have to deduct. This is the rules of writing the description. Okay, and this is the example of the in situ finishes according to the first category, according to this one. Okay, according to S.2. So I give you a few examples here. The first one, cement and sand screed. You can see this is before polish, this is after polish. Sometimes they paint after the polish. Granulate paving and C is terrazzo. Normally for the terrazzo, because you're required to have different shape, so they have to put the dividing strip or divider to make sure that when they pour the particles that is made from the smallest stone, you can get the shape of the material. Okay, so you need to have the divider in measurement for the terrazzo. Okay, under S.10, this is also come together. You can see the word bags and backing to receive different material. okay, required to be given separately. Okay, I'll give you one example. Let's say you have cement and sand, screed. Okay, number one, to receive pakai. To receive pakai. So this is the first one. Okay, to receive pakai, maybe 2 floor. But the second one, I can put detail because similar script, but you have to write down separately to receive maybe ceramic tiles. Okay, I need to write down the size as well, times maybe 8 mm thick ceramic tiles. So based on this rule under S.10.2, you need to write down separately for the script required to receive different material. The first one to receive pakai, the second one to receive CT or ceramic tiles. Okay, the photo on the right hand side, this one to show you the material or method of application. For the finishing trowel, for example, this is applicable for the floor finishes for the cement render. They are using steel trowel. Wooden finishing trowel normally for the script. Okay, the groover and the edger normally to make sure that at the edge you are able to get the shape correctly. Okay, forming channel in the beds shall be given as extra over in meter. This is normally for the floor finishes that require you to form the channel, or the channel is like the drain inside the building, okay, which they occur stating the size. You normally see this one in the construction of the floor required for the laboratory or maybe for the workshop and so on. Okay, forming the channel. Okay, for the second part, we look at the example of the description. This is the example of taking off list and the description for the bags I'm making. You can refer to S.2 and S.10. The first one and the second one is actually similar material, but the ratio is different. For example, paving is having 1:6, but the script is having 1:3. This is the common ratio. Okay, but you can see the second one and the third one. What shows the difference? The second one, to receive 100 times 100 mm ceramic tiles. Don't forget to write down the thickness as well. But because this is the ceramic, because this is the POL, so I didn't put this one so detailed. But the third one is to receive the broken marble. The other difference is one is 2 floor. If we only write down 2 floor, it is understandable that the category is less than 15 degree from horizontal, but the second one is 15 degree from horizontal, because this one to show you the slope. Okay, if 2 floor means it is just flat surfaces. Number 4, this is supposed to be number 4, 15 degree from horizontal, but this is number 5. Why I put D2, but you have to write down separately, because number 3 is marble, number 4 is marble, but actually this one's supposed to be different material. So you cannot combine the description together. Different material, even though the script are similar, you have to write down separately. Okay? And number 6 and so on, I write down here 2 other type of flooring. Remember, if you have different type of flooring, even though they are script, you have to measure separately. Okay, this is the example of the photos to show the screening process. Look at this example. I put this one as the heading because maybe you have different category. Okay, cement and sand paving trowel, smooth with steel trowel as described. You have to write down the thickness and then write down paving. Paving also known as cement render, 2 floor. 2 floor normally flat surface. I also give you the example in case you are given the length and the width, that having the thickness of the wall, so you have to deduct the thickness of the wall. Okay, the unit of measurement is meter square. For all floor finishes, normally meter square except the skirting and the drop and the dividing strip. The rest are in meter square. Let's say there are 2 areas that having the similar surfaces, similar area, similar dimension. So you have to times 2. Okay, let's say I give you this shape. This is the length and then this is the brick wall. Okay, this is the example where, okay, this is the example where the length here 5,000. Okay, you have to get the length 5,000. One is having, maybe this is 225 mm thick, another one is 115 mm thick. So in order for you to get the length, I draw in another line. You have to deduct. Let's say the dimension is center to center. Okay, the dimension in blue color is center to center. How you want to get the length? You have to deduct half of the brick wall 225 and half of the 115. Okay, this is the second category. The second category of the cement render. If you look at this one, the example, the heading and description are similar, but the last sentence are different. Okay, the last sentence are referring to fall. So fall sometimes can be part of the RAM. RAM is for the disability people, or maybe for, in Malaysia we call this one for OKU, where sometimes you can see the fall also for the apron and outside the building. Okay, apron is known as the slab, but that is situated or located outside the building. Some people call this one as the corridor part. And if you look at on the right hand side, I show you the example on how to measure. This is the only example where one side is having brick wall and another side is having half of the brick wall. So 225 is one brick and 115 is half brick. But because the line is not at the internal, so maybe you have to either deduct internal or external. I give you one example. Let's say you have the square on plan. Let's say you would like to measure the internal floor finishes. Okay, so let's say this brick wall is made from the blue color. I sketch this one in blue color. Okay, how you want to measure the internal floor finishes? Because the unit is meter square, so what you need to do, you have to only measure from the internal to internal. Okay, so from the length, you have to take not the center line, because normally the dimension given in the drawing is center line. You have to take the internal line. This is the example if you want to measure the internal floor finishes. Okay, if you need to measure the external floor finishes, you have to take the external dimension. Okay, I show you another example. Let's say the line is here, center line. Let's say the line given in the drawing is center. So how you want to get the internal? You have to take the deduction. You have to do the deduction for the brick wall. Let's say you want to measure the external part. Let's say this is the external part. Okay, the apron. This is under the second category, for example. So what you need to do, you have to make sure that the dimension is given and taken outside the building. Let's say I take the line, or one way you can take the dimension from, or you can take the calculation, take the external floor area, and then you can deduct the internal floor area. That is one of the easier way. Okay, or else you have to make sure that the dimension that you take is outside the building. When we say outside the building, that means it must be external line of your brick wall. External line of the brick wall, if I draw again, look at my purple color now. So the external line is here. Can you see? Okay, so that is the internal, and that is the difference between internal and external. Okay, look at the example given. Next one is also the example for the in situ finishes, but this is for screeding. Remember under S.2 you have to write down the cement and sand ratio. You have to write down the mixture composition. So the ratio for cement is 1 and the sand is 3. This is the common practice. Okay, but if you find that there are different application and the ratio is different in the drawing, you have to follow that. I put this one as described because I put this one as the heading. So maybe in your project you have more than one type. Okay, more than one type of the finishes. Remember as well, if you need to measure for different actual finishes, you have to measure separately. This is under S.2, and then if you refer to S.10.2, this clause mentioned that the finishes or the in-situ finishes to receive different material must be measured separately. So that's why we put here to receive ceramic tiles. And the last sentence, on the concrete basis. On the concrete basis here means to floor. Okay, you can also write down on floor or on concrete floor base, no problem with that. And if you look at this photo, this is to recap that how the application of the screen is. You can see that they are lined here and there, that normally they use the use the timber, or maybe the surfaces is different, just to make sure that there are connection between the tiles and the screening. This is the common application of it. Okay, I also would like to highlight in this drawing, let's say you are measuring internal floor finishes. You are measuring internal floor finishes. For example, this is the area, and then I show you the brick wall. This is the brick wall, let's say internal area. Okay, and then you have the doors here. Okay, let's say you have the door here. This is the door. So which part is not been measured yet? You are only first step, you are measuring the internal area. So I highlight in red color. I highlight in red color. This is the one that you have measured, right? But remember, put to add in the area below the door, because a lot of time the people measure internal, but the underneath of the door is not been added. So don't forget to add that one. So I put here this small area here, the area below the door. Okay. Why I put this one, if any? Because sometimes the calculation is already included. So this is the example where I show the length times the width, and then the addition of the area below the door. So this one must be added. Okay, let's move to the next example. The screen, this is also the example for the screening, but to receive broken marble. So you can see here the first one, example to receive ceramic tiles. This is the example to receive broken marble, just to show you that if there are different type of the finishes, you have to measure separately. And then you can also look at the thickness. This one can be varies, but the minimum is 19 mm. The range of the thickness can be 19, sometimes you can see 20, sometimes you can see 25. Okay, so 25 is normally the maximum thickness to receive the finishes, especially for the tiles. Okay, so the right hand side, the example are similar. I give you an example where the line is in between the one brick wall and another line is in between half of the brick wall. So let's say in this example there are two rooms, so I slash two numbers. Okay, this is another example to show you the photo on how the application of the screening is being applied in the construction. So let's move to the second part. So this is the actual finishes. Okay, the actual finishes. Let's focus on number one. This is actually wrong. Please ignore this one. Final finishes. Okay, part one. In the SMM, you can see the word tiles. Okay, you can see tiles and the other example. So I put here tiles in the bracket, mosaic, ceramic tiles, we have porcelain tiles, and we have some more. And then I also put the final finishes in group number 2 in fitted carpeting. This one you can refer to as point 24. And then last one, also we have, this is also one of the common type of the finishes, flexible sheet finishing, or vinyl, or sometimes you can see linoleum. This is the example for linoleum. In Malay, some people call this one is, in Bahasa Malaysia, some people call this one as tika getah. Okay, or some people call this one as rubber finishes. It can be flexible, it can be fixed directly on the floor. So this is the example of the linoleum. But nowadays, a lot of people apply vinyl in the shape that looks like timber, okay, where they have the rubber element underneath. So the surfaces is a bit flexible. Okay, so this is only example. Okay, look at for part 1 in the tiny words. You can refer to S.11.1. What we need to write in the description, we have to write the kind of the tiles. So the kind of the tile here, there are many. You can see the general example given in the drawing. ceramic tiles. Even in your drawing also you can see CT, so that is the symbol for ceramic tile. You can also see porcelain, you can also see marble, okay, and we can also see mosaic, for example. These are all components under kind and quality, okay, kind of the slab. So the material, the shape must be clearly, the material, the specification must be clearly stated in the description, okay. And I think you also need to remember, you can refer back to your notes in CT subject. Ceramic tiles we have two. One is glaze. Okay, we have glaze, or sometimes you can see this one, homogeneous. Okay, so homogeneous is normally for the rough surface, homogeneous tiles, and then you also can see non-homogeneous. How you would like to know? Homogeneous having normally one line. Sometimes for the homogeneous you can see two lines very clearly. From the side view you can see there are two lines. So if there are two lines, there is non-homogeneous, because homogeneous means one. Glazed tiles normally shiny and not so thick, because that is not applicable for the floor. Glazed tile normally applicable for the countertop or maybe for the wall finishes. It is shiny, but for the floor normally we would like to apply an anti-slip. So you need to know, if you see the word anti-slip, that is homogeneous tile, okay. Or if they apply non-homogeneous, but it must normally consist of the rough surface, so that it is considered as anti-slippery tiles. Okay, the second part that you have to write in the description is the size and the thickness. Okay, this one also you must at least get the idea what is the common size. 100 times 100, this is the smallest. We have also 150 times 150. Currently, a lot of construction nowadays, they apply bigger size. So bigger size is about 2 feet. So 2 feet is equal to 600 times 600. So this is also quite common nowadays. 1 feet is equal to 300 mm. You can imagine 1 feet with one long ruler. This is very important because sometimes a lot of construction work have still use this terminology. So you have to at least know 1 feet is equal to 300 mm. Okay. The thickness also must be stated, 8 mm, 6 mm, maximum is 15 mm. That is common. Okay, so the thickness also give you different price and the quality. Normally, if you use the homogeneous style, the thickness is more. Shape of the units, this one other than square. If the shape is square or rectangular, we don't have to write. Method of fixing, normally bedded and pointed with cement and sand. And treatment of the joint also bedded and cement and sand, but this is normally the white color. Where if you apply all these at the end, the people will apply the white cement. That is to close all the joint, to make the final application to be neat and tidy. So that is also known and written as treatment of the joint. Okay, so this is for the recap part. Work shall be given in meter square. You have to take the net area, means either internal or external. You have to take the dimension properly. Don't forget to add in the finishes under the door. This is what I did mention. Okay, because this is part of the area that you have to measure as well. Okay, look at this example. This is the example if you use a broken marble. Broken marble doesn't have the definite shape. So you can just write down broken marble, but the thickness must be clearly stated. Okay, how the bedded and jointed or the treatment is, we normally mention that it needs to be bedded and pointed with cement and sand, and then you have to mention this one on the screeded bed of cement and sand mortar. Okay, so this is the example. The calculation can be taken from the screeding, or if you measure this one first, you have to show this dimension. If you measure the screed first, you have to take quantity. You don't have to repeat all the calculation again. Okay, this is to show you the example of the broken marble. And then the second one, same, but same category under S.11, but the size is different, 300 times 300. So this is the example for homogeneous tile. Homogeneous tile normally having thicker, so 15 mm thick, And then you can see here bedded, jointed and pointed. This three set statement is actually for the treatment of the joint. Don't forget to write down how this one is being applied, just to mention on the screeded bed. Okay, this is the example of the calculation. Same as before, look at the detail properly. So second part of the discussion here, I would like to focus on the flexible sheet finishing. So this is known as the materials that you have to apply either by adhesive. Sometimes you have to use glue. Okay, sometimes you have to use white cement. But in thin application, not as what you need for the screener bag. Okay, there are a lot of application. This on your left hand side, you can see I put the example for the vinyl flooring, but they have the features of self adhesive. Okay, not adhesive, adhesive. Adhesive, the example is like glue. You can see that they are peel off, so you just have to apply on the floor. This is also another example. Look at my hand. Another example of the flexible sheet finishing. Okay, so for this one, you can refer to S.12.1. Work shall be given in meter square and shall be carried out as close as this clause. Right, so you can watch also this video on the recap session to show the difference between linoleum, vinyl and another material. This is the example of the flexible sheet finishing. You can see it looks like parquet, but it is not parquet. It can come with a roll, okay, or it can come in sheeting, means pieces by pieces. Okay, you can see this one. This is normally can be seen in the workshop. Okay, it can be used for the flooring at the bedroom or maybe at the kitchen. Depends. Okay, this is the example for peeling off. If you want to do the repairing, this is how it looks like. This is another example. Okay, of the flexible sheet finishing. So the application is varies. When I say application is varies, it is either by using cement and sand, screeded, or maybe sometimes they already mentioned white cement, okay, or sometimes they already mentioned that this is peel off type. If pieces by pieces, sometimes they use peel off, or sometimes they just mention by applying adhesive. So there are a lot of examples. So one of the basic example is using glue. Okay, so if you combine with all the rule, you can see the example to write the description. Okay, look at the example given in the recap part. Okay, write down the type, write down the thickness, and how to apply. If you fulfill with the example with this category, you can write down your description properly. Material, linoleum, vinyl, okay, and what kind of vinyl flooring, and then after that you can see you have to write down the thickness. Okay, you can see also in some of the suppliers website what are the common thickness. It can be 0.5 mm, it can be 1 mm, very thin 0.5. Okay, so it also can be applied up to 2 or 3 mm thick. That is where the price is different. And then the last one, how to apply. Okay, so this is the guideline. You can try to write the description by referring to all these three principles. The rule of measurement are similar. You have to measure in meter square. Okay, so for part 3, I focus on the fitted carpeting. So for the fitted carpeting, the rule are referring to meter square. You have to measure in meter square, but you have to write down according to this rule of writing the description. Look at the second sentence first. Plain and pattern carpeting shall each be given separately. Because sometimes in the project, you can see that architect already mentioned, okay, this hall number 1, they are using plain carpet. Hall number 2, especially if you carry out the project for the multi-purpose hall or maybe for the commercial building. So the type of the carpet, the pattern, the shape, all have been mentioned. That means you have to follow and measure separately because maybe the price is different. Okay, look at on the right hand side. This is the example of the material. A recap part for the carpet, look carpet, you have woven carpet, turf and so on. Look at this example. Can you see comparing between the left and the right hand side? In terms of the thickness, in terms of whether they are fluffy or not, and then whether they are able to roll or not. This one very thin, so you are able to roll. Sometimes if you have something like this very heavy, and it looks like tile carpet. That one sometimes it comes pieces by pieces. Okay, I have seen one of the example last time in one in Putrajaya Holding. They have one hall where we visit the company last time. They have pieces by pieces. So when they apply pieces by pieces. That means in the description you have to mention the size of the carpet. Okay, look at the rule of writing the description. Kind and quality, you can refer to this one. Sometimes it's given, sometimes if not, you have to refer to the supplier. Dimension of the pattern, this one if any. If not, you can write down according to architect approval or according to the engineer's approval or specification. Method of fixing and treatment of the joint. This is very important. We have to mention whether the carpet is located or installed on the rubber underlay or maybe on the carpet padding or maybe on the screeding, depends. This is the example where they apply on the glue. So the method of the jointing is on the glue. If you apply on the rubber underlay, then you have to mention this carpet is installed on the rubber underlay. Okay? And then nature of the base, whether this one is applied for the floor or this is what I did mention. Need to be clearly stated. Okay, this is one of the example from the cross section. You can also search from the specification or from the supplier website. On the right hand side, to show you the example of the thickness applicable in the market for the fitted carpeting, 5 mm, 6 mm and 9 mm. So this is the example where you can put in the description and put in the query list in case there are no information given on the thickness. Okay, look at this example as well on the left hand side. On the left hand side, the example of the plywood, and then on the top of the plywood, they apply carpet. So in this case, you did not see any floated bed. There is no rubber underlay where carpet is only one piece. So in this case, you only have to measure in one item. No carpet underlay, no floated bed. Okay, but let's say they are traditional carpeting. That means there are 3 layers of the component that need to be measured separately. Okay, this is the example. Cement and sand floated bed to receive rubber underlay. That means this is the example where there are 3 layers. Okay, let's say this is your concrete floor. This is your screeded bed, and then this one is your rubber underlay, and then this is your carpet. So if you look at this example of the description, cement and sand floated bed to receive rubber underlay. That means you are measuring this part, but to receive rubber underlay. So this is the example where carpet having 3 layers. Okay, and then what is next is to measure the second layer, that is rubber underlay. So rubber underlay, let's say no other specification, you can put approved rubber underlay fixed on the top of the screeded bed with adhesive. This is the example. Okay, after the bed had been finished and dry a little bit, you have to put the adhesive. You can install this rubber underlay. Normally rubber underlay is applied to give the flexibility of the carpet, so the carpet is a bit thicker. And nowadays, if you didn't see the rubber underlay, sometimes the carpet come with the carpet padding. So that is another example of the application and the method of the installation for the carpet. This is the example for the carpet underlay by using PU foam. Okay, one of the material. This is the example of using rubber, and this is the example of using carpet padding. Okay, so you have to look at the specification properly. the unit of measurement similar, you have to measure it meter square, so you have to look at the detail properly. Make sure you take the length according to the item that you want to measure. This is the example. If you take the center line, then you have to deduct the brick wall thickness. Okay, number 3, this is the third layer, approved machine turf loop carpet. This is one example where the carpet is using loop pile carpet. Okay, color and pattern to be selected by architect. Let's say in the drawing there is no information about the different type of carpet, so you can measure under one item. But let's say in the drawing you mention carpet A, carpet B, so that means if you are working on the contractor side, you have to make sure that you get the permission or you have to get the confirmation from the architect on carpet A, carpet B, and so on. And as the QS, you have to also confirm this one with the architect whether carpet A, carpet B, and C having similar specification or similar quality or not. Okay, so we have to write down this one if no other information have been given. Color and pattern to be selected. Maybe the shape and the specification is similar, but maybe the color only different. So if they are different in terms of this one, you can put under different item, but need to be confirmed with the architect. Okay, so this is actually the safe way to write the description in case we're dealing with the interior design. This is the example for carpet start and the construction. You can see on the left hand side, the center one and the right hand side all having different shape and texture. So that one must be clearly confirmed with the architect. Okay, now we move to the last part. So the last two part for the floor finishes, we have skirting and the drop. Okay, this is the example for the skirting, and the drop is normally applicable when you want to go to the toilet or maybe inside in between the living area you would like to go to the kitchen, for example, or dining area to the kitchen, they have the drop. So that is where you have to measure separately. Okay, skirting and the curve is stated under S.8. You can refer to S.8 given in meter, but remember to state the height. This one also had been emphasized when you measure for the skirting inside the staircase in the previous lecture. You can write down the description, but don't forget to add in the height of the skirting. The rule of measurement is similar. Okay, look at my example on the right hand side. Before we look at the example of skirting, on the right hand side you can see the aluminium is used as the skirting, and then there's nothing at the back. So what you need to measure, there is only one item because aluminium is normally using glue to install. But I can mention here there is only one item. But remember, if there are two different height in that particular project, okay, you have to measure two different items because the height is different. Okay, look at the second one. Look at this. This is the example where the skirting is using tiles. So what is the principle of measuring the tiles? You need to measure for, number 1, you have to measure for the grid. So number 2, you have to measure the tile itself. So basically for this particular tiles, you have to measure 2 items, provided that the height is similar. Okay, but let's say you have this one, but this is, let's say, room number 1. This is room number 1. Okay, and the room number 2, you have the same material, but the height is different. Can you measure in one item? The answer is cannot. Okay, so if you have another room but having different height, you have to measure separately. So I put here measure separately. So when you have similar material but the height for the skirting is different, now from 2 items, you should have another 2 items. So there are 4 items to be measured. Okay, either in the screeding or either in the actual tile itself, you have to measure separately. Okay, so this is the second example. Look at here, look at my hand. This is another example of using steel as the skirting. So this one is they are using glue as well, or adhesive. This is another example, 2 inch, and then the thickness is given using glue, so there's nothing to be done. This is another example, but this one is the example where you have to measure for the screeding and the tile itself. So that is how we get 4 items here. Okay, look at number 1 and number 2. Number 1 and number 2 having the same group of the work, screeding. But number 1 is to receive 100 mm height timber skirting. Okay, the second one, the height is different and the material also different. So you have to measure separately. Remember, for the screed to receive different material, you have to measure separately. Let's say I give you the second example just now. They are the material are similar, but for room number 1 and room number 4, the height is different. You have to measure separately. Let's say the height is similar for room number 1 and room number 2, but the material is different. Do you need to measure separately? Yes. This is one of the example. So item number 3 you can take from the first item. Item number 4 can be taken from second item. This is where you can take quantity. So that is the rule. As long as the material to receive is different, the height is different, you have to measure separately. So the unit of measurement is in meter. Okay, what you need to do, normally you can measure in by searching the perimeter. Let's say this is your room. Okay, this is the internal room. Let's say this is room number 1. How you would like to measure R1, for example. You take the dimension internally. Let's say I draw the line here. The red color, look at the red. So this is the perimeter. Okay, perimeter. But don't forget, at the opening, we don't have skirting. So in this case, I give you example, deduct the width of the door. There is no skirting at the door. This is one of the example where the skirting is made from timber strip. So timber strip also not using screeding. This is the example of the stainless steel, and also you can see here this is steel cover, and then this one is the timber skirting. So both of these, and then at the back of this one they are using glue. So you have to measure you have to measure by stating they are using glue. There is no specific in situ finishes if they are using glue. Okay, right, this one don't forget to deduct. So I put here deduct this area for the door or the opening. Okay, another example is the first one and the second one is showing the different material. 15 mm thick times 150 mm high. So 150 is the height, and the last sentence to mention on the screeded bed. So from this item, actually you have to measure the screed as one item. This is the second item, for example. Okay, this is another example by using marble. Don't forget, marble also requires screed, so you have to measure at least 2 items. Okay, right, this is to show you the example of the marble skirting. You can also search on this kind of information. Marble is one of the expensive material, yeah? So you can see nowadays a lot of building does not apply marble. They are using ceramic tiles, especially for the commercial, except for the hotel where you need the luxurious features of the finishes, then they can apply marble. The bungalow, personal bungalow, and so on, private bungalow, and so on. Okay, and then this is the example, but the door opening is more. 1,500 is normally for double lift door. Right, I also give you example here for the timber skirting that are using glue. Okay, for this one, the glue do not have to be measured separately. Glued to the wall, including all necessary items. This is the example of the timber skirting, and this is the example for the timber skirting as well. Okay, but for this one, they apply both carpet and the material to support at the back. So you have to measure this one as 2 items. If they are using glue, you don't have to measure glue separately. But for this one, 2 items, this is also considered as 2 items. Okay, measure in meter, find the line. Okay, the next part is the drop. The drop is not having the specific clause in SMM, but because the rule and application is similar, the floor are using the same principle, or the drop is using the same principle as the measurement for the skirting. You have to measure the item in meter stating the height. Okay, the symbol that can be seen normally in the drawing is either DN or down. Sometimes you can see the word DP. Okay, if you see the word DP 50, small letter, DP 50, that one means 50 mm drop. Okay, the finishes for the drop can be similar with the wall finishes that attach to the drop, or maybe floor finishes, or maybe floor finishes inside. Okay, give you one example. Let's say you are in this. Okay, look at the from the cross section. Yeah, sorry, from the elevation. Let's say you are here. This is the dining room, and maybe this one is kitchen. Okay, originally, look at my blue line. This is the original line at the dining area. So when you go to the kitchen, look at my line 1 and 2. So this one is known as the drop. This one. Okay, this part. I draw again the vertical one. This vertical. This is actually the drop. Okay, the drop is the vertical component, but it's going down. Vertical component. Either it's going down from the internal part, or sometimes I think I need to give you another example where, okay, let's say this is another one. Okay, this is, let's say, living hall. Okay, living hall, and then this is corridor. CO corridor, or maybe a car porch. So when you go outside the building, you also can see the drop. Okay, so this part is known as the drop, this one. But the difference is, on the right hand side, look at my hand, this drop is measured under external floor finishes. This drop is measured under internal floor finishes. Okay, it's going down if you step out, but if it's going to be up if you go inside the building. Both scenario also considered as drop. Okay, both scenario also considered as a drop. So what I would like to focus here is wall finishes attached to the drop. That means if this drop at the kitchen, okay, is the drop at the kitchen, what kind of the finishes that they use? So because this drop may be attached with the brick wall, so it can be similar with the material of the floor finishes. It can be also similar with the material with the wall finishes. Okay, if it is similar with the wall, maybe you have to take note on the information clearly whether this drop, okay, is follow the material for the dining, or is drop if drop is follow the material at the kitchen. So there are these three. There are a few probability. Okay, there are few probability. Look at the example on the right hand side. We have the cement and sandcrete to receive porcelain tiles. Then don't forget to write down the height, the drop. And then number 2, also the same height, but to receive homogeneous tile, for example. And then number 3, to receive 120 mm homogeneous tile. So if you have different height, different material to receive, then you have to measure separately. The rules are exactly similar as the skirting, but I would like to highlight your understanding on this one. Okay, so we measure, even though it's attached to the wall, but it is measured as the floor. Okay, so the last item in this floor finishes is measuring the the dividing strip. This is the example of dividing strip. Can you see this vertical part? It is normally used to cover the gap, or maybe to cover the imperfection, or maybe used to divide the similar material, divide the different material in the same height. Let's say you are in the same height from the elevation. This is the same height at the living area. Okay, but maybe you have 2 hall, living hall 1, and then let's say this one is living hall 2. This is living hall 2. So because the features may be different, then the material for the hall 1 may be using marble. Same line, same, there is no drop and so on. But area 2, maybe they are using terrazzo. Okay, so you need to install the divider at this line, at this yellow line, to divide. Okay, to differentiate between these two material. You can refer to this example. You can also refer to your notes, supplier website, to see the actual specification of the dividing strip made from stainless steel, maybe the brass, and then in terms of the shape, you can see there are a lot of shape: L shape, T shape, um, gauge, and also heavy top strip, and so on. It shall be measured in meter, describing the size. Okay, this is one of the example: 31 times 31 mm thick aluminum strip embedded in the script. You see here, bedded in the script, because you need to close the jointing at the junction of different floor finishes. So once you have different floor finishes in one line, look at this, you have to install this dividing strip, measure in meter. So if I show you again, this is the length on plan. Okay, and then I show you the line. This is the line to show the difference in terms of material. Let's say this is dining, is made from CT. CT means ceramic tiles. Maybe here living hall is made from marble. Okay, so you need to measure in meter the length of this one, the length of this in red color. Can you see? Sorry, this one. Okay, the length to show the difference between two different material. Okay, and sometimes also applicable to see the maybe living and in the room. Okay, give you another example. Let's say this is your room and this is living hall. Okay, and then this is the door. They are not having different height. That means same level. Let's say this is master bedroom. This is living hall. Okay, and then you have the door here. I draw in another line. This is the blue color, and then this is the door. Say for example, this is the door. Okay, marble. This is master bedroom. They are using parquet, for example. Same level outside the room. In the living hall, they are using marble. So where you need to install the dividing strip? Where you need to install the dividing strip? It must be according to the width of your door. This one, because this is where the marble and the parquet is meet, interconnected. Remember, this one must be only applied for the same level. Okay, so I give you two examples. One is the example here where the line is along the opening. Okay, another example is where it meets but only meet at the door opening. So on the right hand side, the first example, let's say this is open space. The second example, it is meeting at the door opening. So that is how you measure for dividing strip. Okay, so that will be the end of the discussion for the floor finishes.